Good morning, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Weekly Spark. Welcome to December, and I'm not ready for the holidays. I'm not prepared. I'm actually filming this right before Thanksgiving, so I've got a lot to do. But I wanted to look into the folklore and set us up with our inspiration for the month of December. For December, the theme is going to be the wolf. And this is an animal that I have long since felt a connection to since my formative years as a 12-year-old, first picking up a copy of the graphic novel Elfquest. More on that later. The World of Two Moons, the Wolf Riders. Oh yeah, this is part of my foundation. So the wolf is often studying contrasts, and it's often not seen in the best light. It's often seen in a negative fashion because it is a predator. It's an apex predator. There are very few, maybe a mountain lion, but very few things that are going to take down a wolf. And I think that is a lot of bad PR and bad propaganda that dates back to the Bible, Aesop's fables, even Dante. Um, Painting the wolf as shifty and a trickster and violent and a predator. Not for nothing, Jesus was the designated and described as a shepherd, and his flock of people, his flock of followers, and then beware of the wolves. So it goes really deep in painting the wolf in a bad light. That has led to a hatred for the species. Basically, my notes are all over the place. Basically in an animal genocide, and culls of animals in environments where they were doing no harm. Um, so I'm going to go more into depth with the reintroduction of wolves into Yellowstone, for example, in a rewilding and a reestablishing of that balance in the ecosystem in a future post when I work on that as inspiration for one of my pages. So put a pin in that. But symbolically, wolves, they're embodiment of wildness. They are independent. They're a symbol of courage. They're very free. But they're a pack creature, so they're community and trust and fortitude, devotion. They can often be seen in connection to your wildness as intuition and instinct. And so a lot of times they're a metaphorical, very spirit animal, very symbolic to people in that regard. Now, they've been on the planet and evolving for 35 million years. And at one point, they were ranging all over North America, Europe, and Asia, which is massive in scope if you pause to think about that for a sec. They're extremely intelligent, great instincts, like I said. Their pack life, a pack or a community, is managed by an alpha male and female, and they're known to be lifelong partners and excellent parents. We think of, the quintessential howling wolf in front of the moon, and they howl to communicate, and they howl before they hunt. So they are throughout mythology in almost every culture. Some mentions that I have here in my notes are very slight. For example, in Aztec Mexico, in Teotihuacan, the wolves were representative of the war god, sun god, Xochitl, which is spelled with an X, like you'd think it would be. Yeah. All right, let's start in Scandinavia. Let's start with the Norse. Odin had two wolves. Odin, the father figure, the father god. He had two ravens as well. So if you were paying attention, working with us in November, you will have heard of Odin, the one-eyed, the all-seeing father god. His wolves were Jerry and Freki. Now, his wolves sound like they were companion wolves. There are quite a few other wolves in Norse myth. Skadi, who was a Norse goddess of the mountains, of winter, of hunting, she had wolves as her companion. thinking there's a Skadi page. Oh, that winter wolf woman warrior. I'm kind of loving those images together. Most noticeably in Norse myth is Fenrir, who was a giant wolf. He was the son of Loki, and he was prophesied to destroy the world in Ragnarok, the end of times. And so he was chained to the world tree. This is where it gets complicated. He was chained by Tyr, who was a deity, a god of war, but he placed his sword in Fenrir's mouth and sacrificed his hand in doing so. But that did give them the capability to chain Fenrir. Now, the chains had to be very special. They were forged by dwarves, made of 6 impossible threads. These threads were chains made out of these things: the noise of a cat's footfall, the beards of women, the roots of the mountain, the sensibilities of the bear, the breath of fish, and the spittle of birds, magically forging chains that bound Fenrir the wolf to Ygdrassil, the world tree. Now, it was said that Fenrir had 2 offspring, Skoll and Hati, and that at the end of days they would devour the sun and the moon, respectively, and be part of bringing about Ragnarok, the end of days. Wow. Okay. I mean, there may be some celestial page in there with the sun and the moon and the wolves chasing it. I mean, these visuals pop into my head when I do the research. If we go to ancient Greece, this is slightly werewolf adjacent, which I'm not really going into this month, but there was a Greek legend that Lycoan angered Zeus, possibly served him up cooked human child, which is generally never good. So Zeus turned Lycoan and his sons into wolves. Possibly this is connected to the term lycanthrope as a term for werewolf. If we go to ancient Rome, well, Romulus and Remus, the twins that were left exposed on the hillside to die, they were the children of Mars, the god of war, and a Vestal virgin who wasn't a virgin anymore. They were raised by a she-wolf because they'd been left exposed to die. They went on later to, found Rome, just, found all of Rome. In Native American legends, beliefs, mythologies, there are quite a few wolves. And I just want to hit on a few since there are so many different tribes, peoples, groups, and I don't want to give any sense of them being all glommed together. Often the wolf is viewed as a teacher, teaching the humans how to hunt, sometimes a protector, promoting harmony between different parts of the natural world. For the Pueblo Indians, the wolf was a guardian of the East, associated with the color white. The Cherokee banned hunting wolves because the wolves would seek revenge. The Inuit had a myth that said that the first man married a she-wolf, and that all the children born from that union were in pairs, a male and a female, but they all spoke different languages and spread out across the world to populate and become the peoples of the world. What I find so absolutely fascinating is that there is a similar myth about a wolf and a human creating the race of man that comes both from Turkey and from Mongolia. I found one brief mention that in some Pacific Northwest and First Nations groups, the wolf and the orca are the same, and that it can jump in the ocean and transform to the orca and then come on land and hunt on land. So I'd never heard that before. That was really interesting to me. If we look at the Celtic lands briefly, I found a couple mentions that Cerridwen, the Welsh goddess, was associated with the wolf or had a wolf companion. Never heard that before. Definitely a rabbit hole I want to go down further. The Cailleach in Scotland, the goddess of kind of the old wise woman, goddess of winter, was associated with a wolf. In Ireland, Cormac Airt was a High King of Ireland, raised by a wolf, spoke the wolf's language. The Morrigan, the Irish goddess, could sometimes take wolf form. And there are findings archaeologically where bones and teeth of wolves were found in Irish sites, making it logical that they were using the pelts or having bones or teeth as ornaments in some ways. I didn't go deep into that archaeology, so just a brief mention of that. As with anything, I'm skimming the surface, and I trust my sources. I trust the books in my library, but there, any of these things could lead you to deeper research, and I'm not an authority in any way. In Japan, the wolf was very important to the native Ainu people. They also believed that they were a race born from a union of a wolf and a goddess. There's a video game called Okami, in which Amaterasu, the sun goddess, takes the form of a white wolf. I haven't ever played that game, but I'm familiar with that goddess, and so I thought that was an interesting note. There were also references to grain farmers that would leave offerings at shrines to basically beseech the wolf for protection from boars and deer that would, damage or eat the grain crops. Wolf talismans thought to grant protection. A few other short references in the Norse prose Edda. There's a giantess, Hiroken, who rides wolves across the sky. In Sweden, wolves serve the Vargamors, who are the forest witches. The wolves are under their protection and their control. That takes me right back to Skadi. So there's a page forming in my head with women and winter and wolves. In Mexico and the southwest of the US, there's La Loba, which literally means the wolf, but she collects the bones of the wolves and she sings them back to life. If you have read Women Who Run with the Wolves by Clarissa Estes, then La Loba is a feature there. Maybe time for a reread of that, actually. Not sure if I'll get that accomplished this month or not. So there are just so many associations. I didn't even go into, I've got a side note here, the wolf and the moon. I didn't even go down that rabbit hole yet. So more research coming. But you see why I left out werewolves? There's enough to inspire me just as is. I have to mention Little Red Riding Hood, The Three Pigs, Elfquest again. The most amazing story and artwork ever. I'm a huge lifelong fan. We've got Ghost and the Direwolves from Game of Thrones. I've never read White Fang, but White Fang is a wolf in that novel. The Jungle Book by Rudyard Kipling. Mowgli is raised by a she-wolf named Akela. There's some bad wolves in Tolkien. There's one in the Silmarillion that bites off Baron's hand and swallows the Silmaril. If you know, you know. So, one extra note, I need to say that I live on land that was the territory of the Lenape Indians, and they see their people as having three clans: the turkey, the turtle, and the wolf. So, just a respectful nod to the original inhabitants of the land where I am now. So, there's a lot going on there. I think that there might be some themes I take and do mashups with. I'm going to try and do one a week, even though we have holidays in December that throw schedules off a little bit. So forgive me if there's a little bit less this month than normal. But I mean, I might post more. I'm not necessarily doing Vlogmas, but I might try and post a few more shorts. So stay tuned. Please subscribe and like. There's going to be a lot going on, and I have some fabulous ideas that I'm cooking up looking ahead for January next year. So like and subscribe. Stay tuned for more weekly content with Weekly Spark, and stay tuned to see where this wolf inspires my pages this month. There's another video coming out shortly with a couple book references specifically, and other than that, stay tuned. Thank you for tuning in. I hope you get time to take it to the page.